right.
Yes. I like
Well, I only
it.
had one grandmother, and she was a Boerta.
Okay.
And she had made sure that you sat straight up, and if you didn't sit straight up, you know what would happen to you. She'd skin about you at the familie, right? Yeah. I often speak about my grandmother. I loved her rather dearly. But my grandmother had very funny ways. And indeed, when she received the radio as a present, that was the end of talking about family. The only thing she could talk about after that were all the characters in the soap.
Yes.
Right?
They were lovely, those stories.
Yeah. And if you went to visit her and the story was on the go, you sat quiet.
And listened with it. Listened with it, yeah.
And she'd only speak to you afterwards, right? And then she would tell the whole story again as if she was now personally involved in that. Now, that gave rise to a wonderful piece of fiction that I wrote.
Okay.
And that is about my grandmother at the age of 65, riding on a motorbike for the first time. Now, how she got on that motorbike, heaven alone knows, because she believed that a woman had to wear a long dress that covered her ankle. If her ankle showed in public, she was no better than
Skanda.
a straatvrouw, right? And she believed that Paul Kruger's law about that should be brought back, particularly because the young girls were now wearing dresses that their knees showed. You know, the 1960s, the dresses got rather short. Eventually it was up here. What I could never understand was and pulling the dress
Down,
like
and
that,
it wouldn't.
and it never went down, you know. Well, I'm not going to say where my eyes were, because I just find myself at a low ebb. But anyway, that's what grandmother believed. And she said that a man who walked around with his hands in his pockets, right, was a child of the devil. She said, if that man who walked around with his hands in his pockets had a motorbike and rode on a motorbike, then it was the devil himself. But if his surname was Duplessis, he was the devil's advocate. That's what she said. Right, and that was because her sister was married to a Duplessis who had some sort of relationship with the bottle. If the bottle was full, it had to be empty. If it was empty, it had to be full. But there was no half measures. Right? And then, because of his habit, he started sort of like hitting Granny's sister back. And then one day he came home staggering about, and what she did was she got hold of the Boereoorlog bandolier, you know, the bandolier from the Boer, and she gave it to him, and well, he got such a fright, right, that he was instantly sober and started running, and he's running until today. That's what Granny said. But anyway, she lived in a boarding house, and her room opened onto a veranda, and often when I went to visit her, we'd sit on the veranda. And then one day, the other fellow rides on a Harley Davidson motorbike, you see. And after he stopped the motorbike and put out the stand and got the motorbike settled, He put his hand in his pockets and he walked up the steps, and as he passed us, he took his hand out of the pocket and he stuck it up and he said, "My name is Du Plessis, Karel Du Plessis." He said. She just looked at him. She wasn't going to shake hands with a Du Plessis, that was it, right? And but anyway, I introduced myself, and so I often used to see him. And then Granny had a 65th birthday, and so he came along, and you will remember in the 60s you didn't have all this fancy paper, it was brown paper.
Yeah.
He took a parcel in a brown plate, and he came with a parcel wrapped in brown paper, and he said, "Ja, met Tannie se verjaarsdag." En sy sê toe hom, "Ek herdenk my geboortedag. Ek verjaar nie." En nog 'n ding, ek had geen geskenk van 'n Du Plessis. And then she went further to say, "I am not your aunt. Ek is nie jou tante. I'm not married to anybody that would make us now family."
Yeah.
But anyway, he stood there rather embarrassing, and then she said to him, "Open the parcel, I want to see what it is." And he opened it, and what was it? It was a radio. A new transistor radio.
Okay.
They got small in the 1960s. And that's when she set off, and verbatim, she repeated the whole sermon of the blooming about the sin of listening to a radio.
Oh my word.
Right. But anyway, she said, "Switch it on." And when he switched it on and it started playing Boere musiek, that was the end of Granny. She fell in love with both Karel and the radio.
Excellent.
Well, anyway, eventually there was one good Du Plessis besides her sister,
Yes.
and that was Karel. Karel says and Karel does. The gates of heaven were open for him, even though he walked with his hands in his pockets, rode a motorbike, and was a Du Plessis. But anyway, one morning, Karel phones me. He says, "Please, you need to come along. Oumakie is not very well." And when I got over there, the medics also arrived, and I informed the family, and they declared it dead. And Karel was there. He was standing next to a bed, and it seemed as if he was really grieving. But Uncle Ben arrives, and what does he do? He's not worried about the grandmother that's lying over there. He's already handing out all her possessions. You can have this, and you can have that. And eventually he got to the radio, and he says, "I'm going to take this radio and put it in my garage so that I can listen to something when I work in my garage." He said, "You touch that radio." And well, I can't remember the rest of what I said to him, but I wasn't very impressed with it. But anyway, that was that day, and I couldn't understand why Uncle Ben would hand out all her possessions, and Karel, who's a stranger in terms of a familial relationship, stands grieving at her bedside. But anyway, I said to them, Karel must do the eulogy. And he did that very well. And he said, "I'm okay." Only rode once on the motorbike when he took her to the shop. Yeah. And she held very tightly on to him, and he felt very important because she got on the motorbike with him. He says, Mary, I want to take many journeys from here to the deploys of Soekmars.